What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Sunday League Screamers podcast. I'm your host of today's show, Steve McCutcheon, along with my two co-hosts, Vito Anazelli and Michael Nellen. We have another great show for you guys today, but before that, please take a moment, hit the bell, and subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you find your podcast. Also, give us a follow over on Twitter at the SL_Screamers_pod. Everything today we're covering is international news. Got obviously World Cup qualifiers going across the entire globe. First off, congrats to a couple of teams that have qualified already so far. We got Qatar, obviously, hosting the tournament.
Wow, Germany, big surprise there. I don't know how they made it in.
They're on fire.
Then we got Germany, Denmark, Brazil, France, Belgium, Croatia, Spain, Serbia, England, and Switzerland. A lot of powerhouse teams in there, but two shocks, I guess, for automatic qualification purposes. We got the Serbia win over Portugal and Switzerland over Italy.
Yeah, that Serbia win over Portugal, to go down 1-0, come back, tie the game. I think it was like around the 35th minute, something along those lines with Tadic. Yeah. And then to score in like the 90th minute at the death with a header, stun the whole stadium and have Ronaldo go back to his crying old ways. Wow. I mean, that looked pretty good. They're definitely, in all honesty, they're a dark horse team for me in the World Cup coming up. I think they're got some serious depth and quality to that team. So
yeah, man, Kostic, Milinkovic-Savic, Tadic,
Vlahovic.
I mean, they're good. I mean, Rui Patricio definitely had a night to forget, especially on that first one with Tadic. Like, I know it took a deflection coming through, but I mean, the ball essentially hit him in the chest and rolled in. So that's not going to be happy. You saw Ronaldo fighting with the manager afterwards.
No, because he wanted to manage.
No.
Yeah, he was on the field, just had a really heated argument with him, and I was like, "It's like, well, it's Ronaldo time at this point, so we'll see what happens next game."
I mean, last time, if I remember correctly, he was in a qualifier to get into it. It was him versus Ibra, right? And he just outdueled him 4-3.
Yeah, I think he had a hat trick, and Ibra had 2 in that game.
I think it was 4. I think it was literally 4-3, like total aggregate.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, Switzerland too as well over Italy. What'd you guys take about that? I mean, you got the European champions going down, or not going down, just
well, they fight for it. They did go down essentially surprisingly, I believe it was to the Republic of Ireland today, right? Could not do anything on the ball, and Switzerland, credit to them, in that group, nobody probably gave them the chance to qualify out, especially given the way Italy was playing after the Euros and how Italy has been over the past couple of years. Unbelievable performance by that team. And then, Italy's in a tougher spot now to make it into the World Cup.
Yeah. I mean, they dropped the ball. They had it in their hands. They go from beating Belgium to drawing 1-1 with Switzerland and then drawing 0-0 with Northern Ireland. Like that was a complete missed opportunity. And it's kind of like feeling a little bit reminiscent of what was it last World Cup when they missed out on the playoff spot.
Yeah.
They're having trouble scoring. Yeah, they put 5 past Lithuania, but I mean, okay.
Lithuania. So,
I mean, England put 10 against Andorra. Who did they play?
San
Marino.
Harry Kane back to his stat padding ways. Hopefully that translates to Spurs, but not to get ahead of ourselves. I think it's more of a cry for help from him saying like, "Hey, I don't want to play for Spurs, but I'll put up 4 against San Marino. Man City, come bid for me."
Yeah.
Price tag just go up again?
Right now.
Well, let's head over to our side of the globe. We got the United States men's national team. We pulled a 2-0 against Mexico. Feel like it's been forever since we got to say that scoreline. What we got a lot to uncover here. Let's start with the lineup. What Gregg Berhalter put out there to start. And what's your guys' takes on it? Because I personally thought it was actually pretty spot on for what we had.
I thought it was the best lineup he put out in all of qualifying so far, honestly. I mean, the only glaring omission, obviously, is Christian Pulisic, but he was injured. I mean, so it makes sense he came off the bench. We talked about it with Henry last time out. It would have been great to see him, but I mean, talk about an impact sub. First touch the guy gets, he comes off the bench and he scores a goal. So Gregg, I thought this was the best lineup we had. We have the best midfield in CONCACAF, in my opinion. And I think this game against Mexico showed it. And I think Gregg, for the first time in a long time, got his lineup right.
Yeah, I think the one thing that maybe was questionable or people had questions about in the beginning was obviously the goalkeeper controversy, because with Matt Turner playing obviously out of his mind, right, for the past couple weeks or months for both New England and the US, you would think he deserves that game against Mexico. obviously in retrospect, everything's 2020. Stefan made, I think, two
big ones,
two massive saves, especially one against Lozano when it was 1-on-1. So
yeah,
totally justified, but that was a really big call. And there was a lot of question marks leading up to that in general. So
yeah, I understood why he went with Stefan, because he is more comfortable playing out of the back than Turner is. And the biggest knock we had on Stefan, I guess, kind of going into camp, was he hasn't been getting as much game time at Man City. So is he going to be cold coming to this game? Is he going to be able to make those saves that he needs to make in a tight spot? The answer was yes, he did. Like, he came up huge for him. He played out of the back very well throughout the entire game. I don't think Turner did anything wrong not to deserve playing this. He hasn't really made mistakes. Same thing with Stefan. Neither one of them really are. I didn't mind. I definitely didn't mind Stefan in there. I personally thought he was the right call because of being able to play out of the back against Mexico. I thought he was the perfect fit for it.
Yeah, I think
Turner gets Jamaica though.
I don't think he does.
I don't think so.
I think they already announced that Stefan's starting.
Is he officially?
I believe so. They said that, which is kind of surprising to me that they wouldn't give Turner that gut run, right? Given what he's been doing, but I think at the end of the day, this is Gregg kind of cementing like more or less his World Cup roster moving forward. He's like, if Stefan is 100% and he's healthy and he's even operating at 75%, like not playing behind Ederson, they're going to put Stefan in if they have the opportunity.
Yeah, I think Stefan fits the style of play that Berhalter wants to be doing more frequently. I mean, there was a couple, as good as a shot stopper as Turner has been during this tournament, I can count on right off the top of my head, multiple times where he's received the ball in the back and he's
played it out or something.
Very where I was like, there's a chance he kicks this into our own net right now. You know what I mean? Like, so I think given what Gregg wants to do, that makes sense. And also keep in the back of your mind as well, this next match is in Jamaica, right?
Yeah, it's in Jamaica.
Yes,
Turner and the Revolution have a semifinal match in the MLS Cup in just under 2 weeks now at this point. So it might be a COVID protocol thing going on as well, knowing that Steffens has all this time to get ready. So why not use him? He's not a big deal. But I think going forward, it's a tough pick. I still think you play Turner until he gives you a reason not to.
I mean, listen, it's not an easy decision. We've never had this kind of decision. When Howard, the last time we kind of had a keeper controversy, or not really, Howard was basically almost on his way out. So Guzan stepped in and just kind of you funneled him behind. It was never really Guzan pushed him for that starting spot technically.
Yeah.
This is probably the first time I've had legit controversy, which is great. You need that kind of competition inside the first team, but it'll be interesting. Eventually Gregg has to put his foot down and be like, hey, this is our starter.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Stefan for the way, like DeVito said, the way that they want to play, and especially how they demonstrated that against Mexico, playing on the front foot and pressing and holding the possession as much as they tried to do. It would make more sense logically to keep Stefan in. So,
yeah. Well,
I agree.
No matter what happens, either way, neither of them are a bad backup to have. So,
no, exactly. And then, I mean, you want to go as far down as third string with Horvath, what he pulled off in the Nations League. I mean, we're deep
pretty good depth.
There's always been solid depth at the keeper position for the US. So
yeah, no, absolutely. What do you guys think? Obviously, the home atmosphere was awesome. I mean, from the national anthem all the way to the final whistle. I've brought this up kind of before on the podcast. Do you think we should have a central location where we play our home games?
Yeah.
I see no reason not to have every game in like Cincinnati, or Ohio in general, St. Louis, somewhere in like that Midwest or just central location in the US.
It's hard to do because, I mean, you look at all the other countries in the world and it's like, okay, you have Wembley's in London. All right, that's like an 8-hour train ride. That's a doable day trip. You know what I mean? Like you can go to that game if you want to. It doesn't work like that in the States. I agree with you. I think we need a centralized location. We need to build a fortress. We need a fan base that is 100% on the United States side instead of half of them being on the opposition's. It feels like every time it's out of a place like Columbus and then Cincinnati. But with that being said, I love to go see them and I would like the opportunity, and it helps build the game across the country. I think maybe after 2026, once maybe the rest of the country is a little bit more on board with the sport and on board with the team, then you can start talking about that being an option. But while you're trying to grow it here, it might just be better to have a traveling fan base for the time being.
Yeah, I would say the only way that they could make that work is if they subsidize the ticket prices, so that way they are not paying $500 to go watch a World Cup qualifier, which is unbelievably ridiculous. So, I mean, I'd be all about it if that was the case. But to Vito's point, like I don't see it happening, at least for the next couple years, or even World Cup cycles for that matter, because they still have a lot of work to do growing the game in the United States. And I think at every opportunity they want to showcase the United States to all four corners or, all areas of the United States. So
I agree. I think we should just be smarter where we schedule certain games. Mexico in Cincinnati or Columbus, 1000%. Jamaica in New Jersey at Red Bull Arena. Okay. Fine with that.
Yeah.
Definitely not playing Mexico there.
Yeah. They should be picking venues based solely on playable conditions. Like you can't be playing at Gillette Field come middle December. You know what I mean? Like that just shouldn't happen. The climate needs to be taken into effect. Why we have beautiful climate all across this country. Why are we playing games in the snow if we don't need to,
You want to play another Costa Rica game in Denver?
Yeah, no thanks. Hard pass. But
it worked hard.
I think that was a tactical decision.
Yeah. Look, if we're playing Messi, let's play in the Arctic. Let's freeze these joints together if that's what it takes. Okay. But
is there a soccer field? Is there a soccer field in Alaska? Like I'm down with that at that point.
Yeah. Well,
let's freeze them out.
Although in all seriousness, a game in Alaska would be awesome. I don't know how it will go over, but that would be cool to see.
That'd be pretty scenic. It'd be like one of those pretty sweet views.
Probably have to play the game at like 1 p.m. though, because it's like dark 20 hours a day over there.
Yeah. Nice Hawaii game.
That'd be
cool. I'd like that. What kind of a little bit of shithousery that we had. Pulisic clapped back after his goal at Ochoa. Man in the mirror shirt. What's your guys' take?
Awesome.
Absolutely phenomenal. Love it. Hey, let the kids talk shit. They're getting that hit, I guess hit metaphorically with words on their shirt. But anyway, Ochoa, he's talking about the man in the mirror comments for those who aren't aware, saying that the U.S. is what they aspire, or at least when they look in the mirror, to be what Mexico is, right? And, the U.S. obviously took that very personally, and Christian Pulisic took that very personally. So when he scored, I love the fact that he had the balls and the cojones to know that he was going to score and then had it underneath his shirt ready to rock when it happened. So that's some serious confidence, to say the least.
Yeah, knowing he only had 20 minutes and he's like, I'm going to do it anyway.
I was thinking about it this morning. Like players must do this shit all the time and they must not win the game. Is this why they don't shirt swap at the end? Because they take their shirt off for a shirt swap. It's like, look at this idiot. He wrote this down and didn't even win. You know what I mean? No, I mean, good, dude. I mean, is Ochoa can say whatever he wants. I mean, but if I'm a Mexico supporter, I like the confidence that he's showing when he's saying that. It's fine with me. But also the opposite side of that is, if you're going to say it, you have to be able to take it. You can't have it both ways. If you're going to dish it out, you got to be able to take it. And he got slapped back in the face with it by none other than the best player on this team. And honestly, probably maybe in 10 years from now, the best player to ever pull on that jersey for the national team, men's national team.
I'd say that right now, but that's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
A lot of people might differ. First time we've also beat Mexico 3 straight times since 1937.
The Alamo.
The Alamo counts as 3. That's what people don't realize.
Should be a 4th. What you guys think that's like kind of like just like a cool record to have, or is that something we are becoming the more dominating team in CONCACAF?
I would say you have to think the pendulum is significantly swinging, right? Because that's one of the youngest teams, it's not the youngest, but it's one of the youngest teams the U.S. have fielded in a World Cup qualifying game, playing an aging Mexico team. Granted, they do have some younger players who are pretty good, like Diego Lainez, and I think the Alvarez guy, who's the center defensive mid for them, who is really good, plays for Ajax, right? But with the U.S.'s depth, their age, I mean, everything is pointing in that direction. And you have to think, if you're a Mexico supporter, oh shit, what are we doing to catch up at this point? Because 3 straight wins, 2 straight tournament wins over them, and now potentially a first place World Cup qualifying win over them. I don't want to get carried away, but obviously ahead on points right now as it stands at 14, and things are just looking up and to the right if you're a United States supporter. And if you're a Mexico supporter, you're being stagnant or you're going down and right. I would even go out to say and venture that in 5 to 10 years time, we might even see a Canada team overtake Mexico as second, or even, I don't know, hypothetically first in CONCACAF. I think Canada has Jonathan David, they have Tajon Buchanan, Alfonso Davies. They're also playing Mexico next, which we're going to get to in a little bit. They could easily hop over them tomorrow night to go in second place in Edmonton in the freezing cold. So.
Yeah, no, it kind of feels a little bit reminiscent of the mid 2000s, maybe early 2000s, when we were just dreadful for a bit. And then you had the likes of a young Clint Dempsey coming through. You had Landon Donovan getting his prime. You had Tim Howard with the outdoor swinging. And it feels like that again, where the U.S. came out of this gigantic rut and missing the World Cup last time around. And it just felt like utter despair. And now you have these young guys coming back through the ranks. And it just has that type of atmosphere, that type of vibe every time they step on the field. Like they want to be there and play for this team as often and as hard as they can. I also think, I don't think we're the dominant force in CONCACAF yet. I think we're too inconsistent for that. While we're one of the stronger sides, without a doubt, I don't think by any means we're the dominant side. A couple of these results could have went the other way. I mean, one result here is, it changes, to Mike's point, the pendulum swing. But I think going forward right now, any team that sees us is going to go, all right, not the game we want this week, but they're also not terrified of us yet.
Does this Mexico team remind you guys at all of Costa Rica?
In what way?
The aging Costa Rica starred in that 2014 World Cup, and like ever since then, when everyone kind of just starting to fade a little bit. I don't see Mexico missing or anything. I'm not saying that. I think they obviously make the World Cup this year. I don't see it really being a question. Next qualifying window for them, though, not as much youth coming through as someone like the United States has. We have a very deep player pool right now. Like Mike just said, Canada's on the up and coming. I think they struggle in the next qualifiers really heavily.
I wouldn't go
a long way off.
I wouldn't go as far to say as they struggle, but I think it's going to be a much tighter battle between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. I think those three teams in particular are going to really battle it out with each other, and then everyone else is going to kind of like what happened in the Premier League, where like there's just that gap of the top four. We're going to see a gap of the top three essentially with those three teams, and then everybody else, in my opinion. Maybe you get that Jamaica coming in, but everyone else is going to be thrown to the wayside.
Yeah, so. I'm with Mike on that one. I just don't see who else could I mean, obviously things change. 1 year, one guy can come through the ranks. Look at Pulisic did. You know what I mean? One guy comes through the ranks, completely transforms the team. So I mean, anything's possible. But to Mike's point, there's no one else at this moment in time. You can take any team in my whole thing is you can take any team in CONCACAF, and if you exclude the Oceania division, right? Any of the other ones, you put them in CONMEBOL, you put them anything else. Do any of these teams, are they any of them considered favorites to qualify?
No,
anywhere?
Probably not.
Not really. No. If it's not CONCACAF and it's not in the Oceanic group, I mean, it is what it is. And so, yeah, it's good to be the strongest ones right now. And no, I don't think anyone else is going to challenge for a while. But I mean, I still think there's a really long way to go.
No, I'm not saying there's not a long way to go at all. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I think there's, one, a shift in power, definitely.
Yeah.
And then two, I don't see Mexico isn't resupplying their players as fast as we are. I feel Canada is, and that's kind of maybe what I'm trying to say is where they're not doing enough job.
Raul Jimenez and
the youth development portion, the dual nationals. I feel like we're stealing quite a few of them now. Where in the past, everyone that was half Mexican would always pretty much just go play for the Mexican national team. That's their heritage, how they grew up and who they represented, or like who their parents represented.
Like Ricardo Pepe played for them.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So, but thankfully, he's on.
Yeah. Although he missed a sitter, so I'm still thinking his allegiance might be shaky.
He's young. We'll get it. Kind of dissecting a little bit into the game though. First half, obviously we had a few semi chances, nothing crazy. We were really missing that final third of the final ball or final pass in the final third. So Mexico did definitely have the better chances. Stefan stopped them. Anything else you guys kind of saw from that first half?
I'd say in general, like there were chances. Just anything, the U.S. should be more clinical, especially to like Vito's point. If we're playing larger companies, larger countries in general, right? Like if we have those chances, like especially in like an actual World Cup, assuming the U.S. makes it to that point, you have to be putting those away or at least putting them on target. I think, if you play a much better team, to Vito's point, like those two chances that Mexico had, the Lozano chance, the Corona chance, they're going to put, that's 2-0 right there. That's easily 2-0. So just have to be tighter with the ball in that sense.
Yeah. I think it was a a decent display in the first half. Obviously, all the plaudits are going to come during the second half, but they didn't put their head down. I thought they did well to control the ball when they had it. There weren't too many giveaways, but they needed to be a little bit tighter on defense, and that's something we're going to talk about later. I know we discussed it with the lineup a little bit, but I mean, that was a much different back line than what Gregg's been putting out in recent qualifiers. I mean, Yedlin getting minutes, Zimmerman getting some more minutes, etc. So I think for what we had and the team we were playing, we did a pretty good job.
Yep.
But we just have to tighten it up in the back.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Second half, obviously, massively different storyline for the most part. US came alive, the pressure, the possession, the passing. Obviously, they had Aronson getting his eye gouged out.
Yeah.
Literally.
I don't know how the hell that wasn't a red card.
I had no idea.
He literally did a UFC move with the eye gouge.
An illegal move. They don't even do that anymore.
Picked him up.
Zlatan only got a yellow for basically murdering Azpilicueta yesterday. So
I know we're kind of going off topic a little bit now, but when does FIFA or CONCACAF step in and actually start handing out suspensions? Because there's so many different memes of Mexico players choking somebody. Like it's never.
I don't think they've even implemented VAR yet in CONCACAF, which I'm also I want but don't want, just given the woes that we've seen in the past with that, because I feel like that could be a massive abuse of power with just like the referees in CONCACAF, because they're not honestly the brightest for the most part. But that being said, like that's at any other game, any other situation you're watching that's an immediate red card.
Yeah.
Like I don't even see how it could be debatable. He rode him literally like a donkey and then picked him up by his fucking eyes. Yeah. And like I don't see it any other way.
So. It won't happen until someone gets hurt, and I really hate to say it, but FIFA's reactionary by nature. I mean, it takes something to force them into action every single time. I mean, they do everything for a money standpoint, and until it's starting to affect that and there's actual outrage, I don't think they're gonna do anything.
Listen, I can understand missing it on the field because the referee cannot have all of his eyes everywhere, and we don't have VAR. So listen, I understand that's fine with me, but going back afterwards, you don't even have to look at social media. Just going back afterwards, watching the game, seeing the tape, and then seeing that, and not being able to hand down a suspension or just some type of disciplinary action.
One replay, and it's all you need.
It's not difficult. It's just ridiculous at this point. Like Weston has at least 2 to 3 memes alone that I know he's getting choked in, like different ages. Like it's nuts. Yeah. I don't know how you can get away with it for so long and not have repercussions. Like they're just losing fans in the stadium now for chanting it was anti-gay
like slurs essentially. Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure that's been going on for 20 years.
Not to get too far off topic with this conversation too, but my only concern with it is if you go back and you discipline post match, where does that stop? What about diving? Are you going to go back and you're going to start carding diving? Where's the line between what you can do and what you can't do?
I think it has to be something like egregious, like very egregious.
Like an eye gouge, like a choke, like something like where you're actually like causing harm or like
physical harm.
The problem is at that point, the referee's probably going to catch that one.
I mean, you hope so. Yeah, you hope so. I
mean, to Vito's point, I mean, some of them are directly right in front of the referee and he doesn't do anything. So it's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But, anyway, back to the second half of the play. What you guys take on it? Like obviously high press, we got the goals, put the game away. I don't want to say we looked comfortable, but we looked relatively confident on the ball and seemed very in control of that game.
Yeah.
To a point where we haven't seen that against a Mexico team in a very, very long time. I felt like.
I'd say in particular, obviously Weah was man of the match, had the assist, and it looked like every time he touched the ball, he was pretty much driving, taking on his defender, beating his defender, putting in the ball in dangerous spots. And eventually, obviously, Pulisic came in, crashed through the back post like a bat out of hell, put the goal past Ochoa, right? He looked phenomenal in that game. And I think that was kind of Weah's, I don't want to say coming out game, but it certainly felt like it.
It felt like he cemented a place in the squad.
Yeah, it certainly felt that way. Like he's like, hey, this is my role in the World Cup qualifier, whether I'm starting or I'm coming off the bench as an impact player, I can do this for this team, which was awesome to see. And then in particular, too, in that second half, obviously we'd be remiss if we didn't call out Musa, who for pretty much 80 minutes, however long he was playing. I mean, he, as an 18-year-old, looked like he's been playing in that role for 10 years. Like he just bossed the midfield. There was countless times that he just dribbled through 2 to 3 people. And then also, made Alvarez look like a fool with a little step over on his own, 20 on the old 18 and just went right past him, blew past him.
Balls to do that on your own half like that is amazing too. It's such a young age.
Yeah,
who actually he reminded me of a lot was Scotland's Billy Gilmore.
I love
like
Billy.
kind of how. What's up?
Billy's the man.
But it felt similar though to me, like where he was very composed on the ball, consistently was able to spray passes around or just maintain possession. Like when he played against Liverpool in that cup match, or when he played his first game, I think with the Euros too, at the same time. It felt very similar to me like that. And like I guess we really haven't had a U.S. midfielder along those ranks, or someone who can really just dominate a midfield like that in a pretty long time. Michael Bradley and Jermaine Jones were different type of midfielders. They didn't have that like.
It was Nagby. I think the closest would be Nagby.
Yeah. And then, he hates us anyway for whatever reason. So, probably, Nagby would probably be the closest one.
Yeah. I mean, Musa, if you can build a team around him in particular too, like in that midfield with that spine of him, McKennie, Adams, I mean, that is a dangerous, to Vito's point, that is a dangerous midfield that is debatably going to be, if not already, the best midfield in CONCACAF. So,
yeah. For sure. One thing that stood out to me with this game in particular was I've been very disappointed with the national team lately in terms of their crossing ability. They have all these pacey wingers who are able to get up and down the sides and beat players one-on-one. But every time I feel like they're in a decent position, even when they break into the 18, I always feel like that last pass from the wingers is an issue. But against Mexico, 29 crosses and I think 12 or 13 of them were accurate, which is actually a very good
percentage.
Yeah. Just to give a little background and context, Mexico made 22 crosses and only made 3 of them accurate. So that's very, very good to see. Now it's just a matter of putting those away, because I know McKennie had a chance from one of those crosses and he hit it right at Ochoa. But I think that's a big step they have to take, because most of the talent on this team is on the wings. It just is. I mean, even McKennie likes to operate a little bit out there once in a blue moon. He starts to drift, So that was really good to see.
Yeah. Also, quick shout out to Zimmerman stepping in for John Brooks. Dude had one of the best games I've seen him play in a U.S. shirt. He was a monster dealing with Raul Jimenez, who's by far not an easy person to deal with. So him and Miles Robinson, until he got a red card, were very, very good and solid in the back line. So,
yep.
Do you guys feel anyone, obviously we've had so many positive things to say, which is unusual, I feel like, for these episodes. Anyone's stock fall from this game?
A little bit for me. And it's a Jedi, a little bit, because he had himself, defensively a little suspect against, a tricky Corona. And he was a little wobbly defensively. I think some of the crosses, maybe to, Vito's point, where like we could have more quality. I think that's his area that he really lacks, is delivering that final ball. So his stock slightly, not massively, but overall, I mean, I can't really see anyone who had like necessarily a poor game that would be like too judgmental or too harsh on. So,
yeah, I'm with Mike. There's no one in particular. I think their stock went down. But I am a little disappointed in Miles Robinson, just because, I mean, it's a red card. So obviously there's always going to be some negative connotation when it comes to that. But more so, it came down to the decision-making. I mean, the red card came in almost the 90th minute and you're up 2-0. At that point, you need to be available for the next game. Brooks wasn't selected for this team. So you're already back one defender there, right? And that just takes him out of the next match too, which is it's just a big game, especially considering the fact that Mexico has to play Canada, and depending on a draw or anything, it gives the USA a real chance for some separation in there. So I'm a little disappointed that he knew he was on a yellow and he created another foul where if he scores, he scores. It's 2-1 in the 92nd minute. I mean, it is what it is. I understand it, but I'm a little disappointed about that.
Yeah, I don't think his stock necessarily dropped, but he's allowing Chris Richards to come in now, perform really well, and then make question marks on him if he's the right center back. So
yes, I'm just disappointed about his decision making. I don't think of him any differently as a player. I just think he made a silly decision there.
I agree. We're top of the of the table right now, halfway through. Didn't see that one coming probably after our first window, I don't think.
No,
or the second.
Not or midway, or even the beginning of the third.
Yeah. thought I was just drunk last time I saw it.
Wouldn't put it past you.
Yeah.
Let's kind of get into the Jamaica game, predicted lineups. What are you guys feeling about that? Well, obviously we have McKenny. McKenny is out, and then Miles Robinson is also going to be suspended for the game. So we have at least a minimum of 2 changes. Anywhere else on the field you'd like to see people coming in and out?
Love to see Turner play. I think they already said he isn't. I think Stefan was already confirmed to be starting. So if possible, Turner. And then besides that, I'm trying to think. Obviously Scally, but I don't think he'll get any real minutes until there's like maybe around like the 60th or 70th, minute. If hopefully the US is winning, they put him in to get a little bit of experience in game time, just to get a feel for what CONCACAF is like. So
yeah, I don't have anyone in particular outside of those 2 changes that have to be made. Obviously, I more so want to see Gregg stick with it and go. Timothy Weah hasn't had the most minutes on this team, but the last 2 performances he put in have been game-changing performances, and they've won the games. He's hitting a run of form. Let him continue it going, right? Musa had a good game. Let him keep going. And then on the flip side of that, I would like to see Aronson start again. He obviously got off to an incredibly hot start over the first 1 or 2 rounds, or 3 or 4 games, whatever it was. But he definitely has cooled off a little bit. Hasn't been bad. He just hasn't been that Aronson we saw at the beginning of qualifying. And I would like him to still have that opportunity to kind of try to refine that and then make a decision going from there.
I got you. I don't know if you guys saw James Sands was added to the national team for this match
today.
I don't think he plays. Yeah, he was just added. I don't think he plays, but I think he's there more for cover, if anything. So.
Yeah, because he has that dual spot where he can go center defensive mid or center back for us, where he's played more, I think, center back, especially in the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
So really no one else? I mean, we can kind of throw a few names out there. We got Ferreira up front, possibly.
Maybe Ferreira, maybe. If they want to give Pepe a rest, but I think Gregg will probably keep, for the most part, the same 11 intact, especially given Pulisic just still coming off the injury. He'll probably only try to bring him in if he really has to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my expectation, besides those 2 major substitutions or to the roster of McKinney missing, who I would assume you probably bring in like a Buzio or maybe Acosta realistically. And then for what's his name? Miles Robinson, excuse me. You probably bring in Chris Richards. So
okay. Yeah. The only defenders possibly out there, you got Reggie Cannon over at right back, possibly for Yedlin. And then Mark McKenzie also at center back. Don't see McKenzie playing as much. I hasn't been in great form over in his club level, nor playing enough. Cannon, maybe. Definitely possible if he wants to give Yedlin a rest or just wants to swap out and see what he can do. Wouldn't be shocked by that. But yeah, I agree. Scally, I'd love to see, even if it's just for a half hour, 20 minutes, whatever it might be, to get him used to CONCACAF and just get him that role. Obviously, playing over in the Bundesliga, he's not afraid of the big games. Even he's performing against Bayern both times he's played against them. So
yeah. My whole thing with the lineups in this game is, I think now, given where we are in the table, this next game, pretty huge, obviously, but I'm just looking towards the end of the qualifying. Our last 3 games are Mexico in 2nd place, Panama in 4th, and Costa Rica in 5th. The only team we're not going to play in that is Canada, who we played two games before that, right? We have an incredibly difficult end to qualifying in terms of the table and the powerhouse structure. And this game is probably going to be what is going to decide how nervy we are. If I poop my pants while I'm watching it on my couch, basically. Yeah. Because this puts us so far ahead of them. I want the best lineup Gregg can possibly put out there. I wanted the same lineup that we had this time out.
Yeah. And it's not to say that good.
I was about to say, one of the biggest things we had, or biggest things we probably pulled up on the second window, was him switching the lineup when he didn't have to, instead of tossing out his best 11. I think this is the exact same situation where I hope he's learned, where it's like, hey bud, this is 3 points we really could use. Go get them.
Especially because it's in a tough place to play, Jamaica, and it's only 2 games this round, right? This is only 2. Yeah. If you're ever going to just leave your guys out there for that little bit extra, it's the window where there's only 2 matches, not 3.
Not only that too, but you have to remember, like, Mikel Antonio just scored his first goal ever for Jamaica, so kudos to him in the last game. But
that's
they now have Mikel Antonio up top, who is He's a different striker, obviously, to Raul Jimenez, but he's still a very quality striker.
Zimmerman's going to have a
I think better, honestly, right now. This point in time,
Leon Bailey on the wing, but they're going to have people who can beat you and can be a problem. It's not going to be the Jamaica team that we played initially earlier in the rounds. It's going to be a much harder game, in all honesty.
This might be the trickiest game we've played so far. You know what you get when you play Mexico. I mean, you know what you get when you're going to play Canada. This Jamaica team is, I mean, no one really knows much about them at this point. How many times, to your point, Mike, have these guys played together?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like they don't have quality players either.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Agreed. No, absolutely. So if you guys had to go to starting 11, then pretty much the exact same lineup, maybe switch out just whatever two you have to switch out, Chris Richards, and who you want in the midfield then, Acosta?
I would probably say Acosta because I trust him in CONCACAF games a little bit more. I think he's one of those players that like, maybe people would disagree, but I think he gets it from that perspective where he like really lays it out on the line in those types of games. He's pretty physical in the midfield, and it'll probably give Musa and Adams the ability and license to kind of do what they need to do. So I would say Acosta realistically.
Okay. Yeah, and expect Jamaica to come out swinging because they're only at 6 points right now, and it's do or die time. They got to start putting up points. They're going to be coming at the United States full throttle that entire game.
Yeah, and they left 3 points on the last match too. They gave up one in like I want to say the 80th minute or so.
Something around there, yeah.
So they definitely should be going for it. Anything else, boys? Realistically,
no. I want to see some consistency from this team stringing through. That's been kind of the motto of this qualifying, hasn't it? Every good performance is followed by what the hell did I just watch? 25 shots on target and no goals. You know what I mean? Type of thing. Like that was it Canada that happened against?
Yeah.
I just want to see some consistency, and to do it against Mexico and then on next with Jamaica is, I think, a great start for that.
Yeah. The fact that we can pull max points now. Before maybe it was just like, okay, we'll draw at Mexico and then try to beat Jamaica. Now the fact that we can get all six, like,
go for it.
Get all six.
Yeah, all six. Make a statement.
Do you think, out of curiosity, if you had a gut reaction right now, Canada has a chance of beating, or a solid chance of beating, probably a pretty depressed, depleted Mexico team?
I don't think so. I think Mexico's going to win
in the cold in Edmonton.
I think Mexico wins. I didn't like how they looked in their last game against, who was it? Was Costa Rica or Panama? They just played
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica sat in a low block and they had trouble breaking them down. It took a mistake by the goalkeeper to really squeak that one through. I think ultimately Mexico's a stronger team. If they are going to win, I think it's going to be because Mexico likes to play attacking football and they're like have possession and move, and they'll be much more open, adverse to what Costa Rica was. But then again, Canada's scored the joint most goals so far with the United States. So
I think they pull it.
I think they pull it off.
I think they pull it off.
I think
at a minimum, they get a point, I think, especially at home. But they're also the only team that's not losing qualifiers, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
They're still only wins and draws.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where they can't pull off at least a point. Granted, could Mexico just turn it on and drop 3 and go walk out 3-0 winners? Yeah, absolutely. But Canada looks really good at the same time. So
yeah,
it'll be a fun game to watch.
Predictions for tomorrow for the US game, score line.
Dos Acero again.
2-2 draw.
2-2 draw.
Wow, it'd be a bummer. That was rude.
I'm gonna say a 2-1 win for the US.
That was my secondary. That's what I was teetering on. I just went for the draw.
He's banking on a Mikel Antonio masterclass right now. That's really it.
Yeah. Leon Bailey has looked pretty bad recently in the league, so that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah. I think Mikel Antonio probably gets 1.
I'm worried he's going to bully those two center backs who don't have much chemistry.
I think he gets 1 at least. And then we'll see about the Jamaica back line. So I think the US has too much power up front. So
I'd like to believe that.
Yeah. So would I. We'll see.
Well,
absolutely.
Let me ask you something before we wrap it up. At what point does Gregg make a decision one way or the other? Let's say we're in a good place, right? When it comes to qualifying. Let's say we pick up 3 points tomorrow. Mexico and Canada both they draw and they drop points. And it starts to become a scenario where it looks like 90% chance that the United States just auto qualifies. Do you start giving players more and more? You start using the same lineup week in, week out to start generating chemistry, knowing that these are probably the same guys you're taking to the World Cup?
Yeah.
Or do you start fiddling with things and start giving other guys other looks?
I would say unless somebody really, really deserves that call up at this point in time, you start to slowly cement that chemistry because you have the players that you most likely already want. He probably already has the 11 that he wants in his head, realistically.
Yeah.
The only exception on that team who wasn't playing, or the 2 exceptions to that team who wasn't playing yesterday, which is even a broader conversation, is that Pulisic wasn't playing and Reyna's injured, right? And Destin Brooks, right? So those are 4 key players you're missing.
4 starters.
I'm just saying, and those are great problems to have.
Yeah, I agree.
At that point, I'm not sure who else is going to come in terms of like who's going to just explode onto the scene in the next, 8 months, 9 months. So
the reason we have a goal, like the Gold Cup is the way it is right now, that's where way more experimental for the B, C squad kind of situations where you find out where you have your depth and who really should be getting the call ups. When it comes to the end and we auto qualify, hopefully, you take who you think is going to be on that World Cup roster with you, and you get them like
week in, week out. Yep.
Yeah.
You experiment with one guy, 11. Maybe 2 a match, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the same starting 11 every time, but get all those guys comfortable playing with each other.
Because you have to say what right now. You say Pulisic, Weah, Aronson, Reyna. Obviously, the midfield 3: Musa, McKennie, Adams. No brainers. You got both the Robinsons, Steffens, Turners. Probably.
You probably take Brooks and Dest.
I'm thinking center backs. Brooks and he's taking Zimmerman, especially after the last performance he's had.
I have no problem with Zimmerman right now.
Me either.
Absolutely been killing it.
I mean, that's basically what you got to try to figure out how to get those 11 guys in the lineup.
Yeah, Dest too, and then they have we'll see. There's a lot of options, which is a great thing. And I'm curious too, like where do some of these people even fit? Like Arena, for instance, who just missed this past game, and it's so easy to like overlook it, but like there's quality in the wings, there's quality in the backup, and it'll be interesting to see how Gregg has to fit all these players into the single team. And it's a problem as fans we're definitely not used to having with the US. So
no, absolutely. He's facing something we've never faced before, where in terms of like someone like Bruce Arena, Klinsmann, Bradley, they all had to get the best out of what they were given.
Yeah.
Gregg has a plethora of options. He has to now figure out how to like his best 11 specifically. It might not be the best 11 players that we have, but it's the best 11 chemistry wise that play on the field together.
He's at a point where failure comes down to him not managing properly, not because of his players. You have a player in every position you can rotate in and out if that came down to it. It's also maybe he should get on the phone with like Tuchel at Chelsea and when he's talking about Pulisic next time. Like, how do you have 14 midfielders? How are you going to get them all on the field? Because we have 4 or 5 midfielders who could start every game feasibly.
The only gripe I had with him with this past qualifying and the roster itself was just the lack of like another central striker besides Pepe, which I think obviously he won't do during the World Cup, hopefully. But I mean, we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah.
So
agreed. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Sunday League Screamers podcast. I'm your host of today's show, Steve McCutcheon, along with Vito Anazelli and Michael Nolan, signing off.